Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Increase the Benefits of Your NetSuite Investment. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenter from Moss Adams, Chris Millet, Senior Manager. Chris has partnered with businesses, owners, and managers to help them reach both personal and organizational goals since 2000. With direct involvement in hundreds of system implementations, he's skilled in implementing leading practice accounting and reporting processes, financial planning, profit improvements, internal controls, and IT systems. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris to get us started.
Great, thanks so much. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning or this afternoon, whatever part of the world that you're in. As the title of this presentation indicates, we're going to be talking about some ways that you can increase the benefits of your NetSuite investment. So when we talk about that, that kind of gives the connotation that we're not attaining the value in our NetSuite investment that we may have anticipated or that we expected. And so that's really kind of where we start when we start talking about some of the reasons why you might not be gaining all the benefits of that investment and some of the areas that we commonly see when we work with folks that are using NetSuite, some of our NetSuite clients folks that may have implemented NetSuite years ago that we start working with, so forth and so on, is that they're really in really four different areas that we normally see that value is not being attained at the level that we're expecting. And one of those first areas that we see here is the lack of process focus and improvement. And so a lot of times people just don't know what they don't know. So we feel like we're doing things properly. We feel like we're doing things according to maybe what we've been told a leading practice is or a best practice is, but we're just not sure. And we're not sure what areas we really need to focus on to make any sort of improvement at all. So again, we just don't know what we don't know at that point. The next area that we see quite frequently also is low user adoption. I can't tell you how many times I'll start a conversation with even a long time NetSuite user, and they'll say, hey, we're still doing a lot of things on spreadsheets. We're doing things outside of the system. And again, it's not so much that they don't want to use NetSuite, but maybe they just through lack of training or again, just lack of knowledge. They think, maybe adopting a process from the NetSuite may be too difficult or too time consuming. But again, obviously with low user adoption, you're not going to be getting the value of the investment that you have. Another area that we see frequently is poor data quality and management. So that's whether that is user inputs, coming from an integrated source, coming from third-party systems through imports, those different types of things. And because we're not getting the data into the system the way that we need it, obviously garbage in, garbage out. So we're not able to get timely reporting and information to make decisions in a timely way, okay? And then lastly, something that we see frequently as well is a lack of awareness of applicable functionality. I can't tell you how many times we will look at doing maybe an assessment for folks, or even just kind of initial conversations about some of the issues or troubles that they're having with NetSuite, and we'll start talking about some of the available functionality that they have right at their fingertips that they're paying for every year that they just weren't aware of. We've had that conversation frequently. And in fact, I think I read a statistic not too long ago that about 90% of businesses are not actually utilizing their technology tools to their fullest extent. So that's something that we see quite a bit, is just that lack of awareness of what's actually available to you to be used. So that leads us into some of the common business challenges that folks are looking to solve through using a tool like NetSuite and maximizing that value, increasing that return on investment of their NetSuite spend. And so again, that usually we see that fall into one of these three buckets usually, and they're either going to be kind of more on the strategic level, or they can also be more on the tactical level as well. So as this first bucket here really relates to the previous slide, some of the things I talked about, and that's really just leveraging the full value of NetSuite. You may have a business process that requires optimization against best or leading NetSuite practices. Again, if you've never had someone really kind of take a look and say, okay, we have X process that we use within NetSuite. How does that stack up compared to how others are using NetSuite, how other folks in our industry are using NetSuite? And the next one that we have is there may be significant functionality, again, that you're not using in the system. I spoke to this on the previous slide. We see this happen all the time. Or you might not be able to leverage new functionality through NetSuite releases. Those of you that are familiar with the NetSuite's release schedule, they have a release schedule that happens in the spring and in the fall. There's always new functionality. In fact, we just finished doing an analysis of all the new features and functions in NetSuite. We put that out to all of our managed services clients that we have for NetSuite so that they're aware of the new functions you might be able to use. So, but we do see some instances where folks, again, either through lack of awareness or maybe they have some customizations in their NetSuite instance that they're not able to take advantage of some of the native functionality that gets released in some of those new releases. Okay. The other one is kind of more of a tactical area here, and that's system performance, right? So we talk to folks all the time that are concerned about performance or scalability of the NetSuite solution, whether that be from a volumetric standpoint or maybe a business process standpoint. They're taking on a new business or a market stream, and so they're wanting to understand if NetSuite is going to be a good solution to scale in that way. Next, maybe you're interested in making sure NetSuite can collaborate efficiently with the rest of your ecosystem and your technology stack, right? So maybe you have some third-party systems that you're using. We view NetSuite as being able to connect to anything as long as those systems can be connected to, but you may not have confidence or the requisite understanding to see if that's actually going to make sense. And maybe that automation may not work the way you want it to, but that is something that we help folks with quite frequently. So, and then lastly, make sure that none of your customizations or integrations are going to pose challenges to future releases. So that's going to be related to kind of the last bullet on the previous bucket. We want to make sure that we're not doing something in the system that's going to prohibit us from taking advantage of the native functionality. And then the third bucket is more strategic, right? So maybe you've experienced significant changes in your business strategy, your business approach, your processes. We want to understand if NetSuite is going to be the proper solution to grow with us in that way. And of course, you've maybe grown through acquisition. We see this quite frequently, different combinations in the market where folks are wanting to roll an acquired company into their existing NetSuite instance. How is that going to work? Or there may be changing market needs. We've seen folks go from kind of more, especially like in the retail world, have gone from more of kind of a brick and mortar situation to much more e-commerce, direct to consumer. How are my systems and my technology stack, including NetSuite, going to be able to accommodate for those changes? And then there may be some industry standards or reporting requirements. If you are subject to any sort of governmental reporting, FDA reporting, or any other standards that you're going to need to be able to produce reports for, am I going to be able to accommodate for that as we move forward? So those are really some of the main common challenges that we see when folks are maybe not experiencing the value or the return on their investment that they need. So what we do is we work with folks quite frequently on a NetSuite assessment. And so why would it matter to do a NetSuite assessment? And again, these kind of fall in a couple of different buckets. So we have things on really more of a strategic level. We also have more on tactical areas too that we can focus on as well, and our combination of both. So again, kind of relating to the business challenges that we just talked about, we want to be able to keep pace with business growth, right? We're all trying to grow. We're all trying to, again, enter new markets, be able to keep the different business channels churning. So we want to make sure we're able to do that. And an assessment can help us understand if we're going to be able to scale in those ways. Again, adapting to changing market demands. That kind of really goes along with industry changes, business channel changes, so forth and so on. And then the last couple, really ensuring that competitive advantage. And lastly, making sure that we are reducing inefficiencies in our system performance. So these are kind of really all kind of strategic initiatives that we work with folks on when we do a NetSuite system assessment and create recommendations around those areas. Okay. And then more in the tactical side of things, we have some more of the blocking and tackling sides of NetSuite, right? So one thing that we're able to do is identify bottlenecks and those inefficiencies, right? So do we have certain processes or workflows or integrations or any other kind of user-driven process that is creating inefficiencies? Well, we're able through an assessment to be able to tell, for instance, how many times is a specific record being touched and by how many users through a process? How is that having an effect on, our days to collect AR? That's just one, example, but those are things that we can look at from kind of a nuts and bolts perspective and identifying what those bottlenecks might be, which goes along into streamlining those business processes and workflows. So again, an assessment can look at, do we have some unnecessary things happening? Are we taking advantage of the automation that NetSuite can offer? Are we able to reduce the amount of time that our employees are spending in NetSuite on given processes and transactions, which hopefully leads to the next area here, which is enhancing that user experience and productivity. One thing that we hear constantly is if I could do X better or X faster within my system, life would be great. Or I could focus on maybe things that are more important to the business instead of doing things that are maybe considered busy work. I can put that brain power towards new initiatives within the organization. And then lastly, improving that data accuracy and reporting. So one of the things, when I first started using NetSuite, just on a personal note, I was a user of NetSuite. I worked for NetSuite Oracle for many years, and now I've been with Moss Adams working in the NetSuite environment for 5 or 6 years now as well. And one of the things that I loved about NetSuite and why I fell in love with it was that I could get information out of it quickly and make decisions quickly. But that's only going to happen is if your data is being input properly, right? And so that's something that an assessment can highlight and call out is, is our level of data or lack thereof meeting our needs from a reporting standpoint? Okay. So again, those are some of the key areas there that we have within that kind of nuts and bolts or tactical areas of why a NetSuite assessment can certainly be beneficial. So then it's kind of we ask the question, okay, well, what sort of return on investment can we look at from doing an assessment? So these should be fairly straightforward from some of the previous slides that we've looked at. Cost savings from increased efficiency, revenue growth from opportunities, from improved processes, and then obviously scalability and future-proofing your NetSuite environment. And ultimately, we're trying to align with your strategic goals. And then lastly, uncover and mitigate risk. So these are all things that we look at from an assessment perspective. We can give recommendations on for future actions to take, again, both at a strategic level as well as from a tactical standpoint as well. And again, most of the time, those things are going to go hand in hand. And really prioritizing, right? So there may be, one of the things we talked about earlier was there may be a lack of understanding in terms of where do I start with improving or getting the return on investment from my NetSuite environment that I'm looking for. And that's really what an assessment can do for us, is it can first highlight the most impactful recommendations or improvements that we might make, and we can also prioritize those, right? So, hey, this particular change or improvement will have a high impact, or this may have a medium impact, or we have a handful of items here that are definitely recommendations, but again, they're going to have a lower impact, so maybe we push those down the line a little bit, and those are kind of the nice to haves in terms of our priority list. Okay. So when we start working with folks and they engage us for a NetSuite assessment, tell a little bit about how the process works. Okay. So first and foremost, we go through a project initiation process. We want to meet with your folks. We want to talk with your key stakeholders. We want to understand, obviously, the key strategic business needs, your current pain points, align with your team members around overall goals, long-term plans, and then, of course, talking about execution steps in order to achieve those goals. So, again, we want to we'll interview your folks, make sure that everybody's aligned and on the same page with what the ultimate goal is. What does success look like from initiating a NetSuite assessment? Okay. And that's when we'll go into more of our detailed fact finding. Once we kind of understand what those strategic goals are, what those current pain points are, we start looking at, again, some of the more tactical areas of your NetSuite environment. But we want to do this quickly. We want to be able to highlight and identify the main issues, the root causes of issues quickly. And, in the past, I've been doing this kind of work for about 25 years. In the past, we kind of did that through brute force. So you kind of went in and you looked at people's systems, and just through your own intrinsic knowledge and your experience, you could at some point get to a place where you could identify, okay, these are the key issues and these are the key areas. But again, it took some time to do that because we have people doing that and looking at these things. Well, with the power of AI and some of the other machine learning tools that we have these days, we have tools that can very quickly look at your environment and visualize your current processes and performance and really highlight and document where those bottlenecks might be, where those efficiencies might be, and really help us quickly identify those areas of improvement. So once we have that information, both from those initial interviews and talking with your folks, and obviously going through our fact-finding tools that we have here at Moss Adams, is when we can do that more in-depth analysis. Part of that analysis would be to draft a report based on our findings, right? So here's our recommendations. Here's what we would ask you to look at in terms of addressing your strategic requirements. but we'll also look at some documented gaps. So if there's gaps in functionality that we've identified early on, or even through our analysis, we'll highlight those as well. Any areas that we may need to add functionality to your NetSuite environment in order to fulfill a requirement. Okay. And then next, we will do that analysis review in collaboration with your team. So we're going to review that analysis, review those recommendations, determine the relevance and the priority of those recommendations, and of course, have that conversation with you and your team to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's on board with what those next steps might be, set along the time frames, and put together really a strategic plan to help you implement the recommendations. And that will all be presented in a final assessment report. So that presents an overall analysis. We give the recommendations and roadmaps with related efforts, with high-level timelines, efforts, estimated budgets, ownership costs, those different types of things. But we're really just trying to empower you, is really saying, hey, this is what we found. This is what we feel like would be the greatest improvements, so you can receive that return on investment that you're looking for from your NetSuite environment. And this is how long these things will take, and so we can prioritize those things in terms of time, cost, level of effort, etc., and hopefully put together a good plan for moving forward in the future. So that's really kind of some of the main things that we do here at Moss Adams with a lot of our NetSuite clients and folks that come to us that may not be getting the value that they're looking for. Really helping them identify what those key pain points are and inefficiencies within their existing technology stack as it relates to NetSuite, and putting together that roadmap with you to at least give you a plan of action moving forward to remedy those issues. So as we wrap up today, next steps. So if you're interested in having us do an optimization assessment for NetSuite, or I just want to ask more questions, I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody attending today. Here is the contact information for both myself as well as our partner in charge of our NetSuite group here, Mike Parker. You have our email address here. Feel free to contact us directly. Again, happy to have a conversation about kind of what's going on with your situation. Even if it doesn't lead to an assessment optimization, we are always happy to talk NetSuite and help you try and figure out what the best path is moving forward. So I know we do have a little bit of time here at the end, so if there's any questions, I don't see any in the Q&A box, but if there are any questions, feel free to jump in, and other than that, I will pass it back over.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you for a great presentation today. And like Chris said, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out. The contact information on your screen right now, and we'll do our best to follow up with you. Here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this survey, as your feedback is very important to us. And we thank you again for joining us today, and hope you'll join us again next time.